Hi, my name is Rishoketsu Malefo, and I'm here to share my testimony. Almost 2 years ago, I attempted suicide, and that was not the first time. The very first time that I attempted suicide was hardly a few months after I had just gotten married. I went to see the psychologist. I had a session with the psychologist, and when I was diagnosed with depression, the doctor put me on medication, and I had been on medication for a couple of months, and it was going quite well, and I was actually recovering and coming back to myself. And only after I think about 6 months of me being on medication, I had another blackout. And it was really a very, very dark time for me. And I remember it was an afternoon. My husband was at work and I was at home. And I just felt this darkness come over me. I just felt like I had no will to live anymore. And I cannot vividly explain it, because when the darkness comes over you, it's like you have an out-of-body experience. And I ended up taking medication that was supposed to help me, but instead I overdosed on it. Medication that was supposed to help me to sleep and also to calm my anxiety and depression down. When I woke up, I was in hospital. And when I eventually came to, the psychologist at the hospital came to me and she advised me that I should consider getting admitted into a mental institution. For me, it was quite taboo because I thought it meant that I was mentally disturbed somewhat. And I had no clue what it meant. But she explained what the process would be, and I became open to it, although I was very nervous. And after a few weeks, I managed to be able to go to the institution, and I was admitted. And it was 14 days. I spent 14 days there, and it was it was quite helpful because they dealt with issues that were specific to what I was facing. Another thing that also kept me going was the fact that I never stopped going to church. The one thing, I never stopped going to church, even though I'd say spiritually I was decaying, because there were moments I couldn't pray. There were moments I found it very difficult to read the Word of God. But the fact that I could go to church, and even during the hard lockdown, we were able to stream the services. That was the word that also kept me going, and that also refreshed my mind throughout that journey. And every Sunday, listening to Pastor Art preach and Pastor Art give us a word of hope, that instilled hope in me. It was not an overnight thing, and there were days whereby I didn't want to come to church, and I would even tell my husband that I don't want to go because I just don't feel like it. And some days he would try and encourage me to come to church or even try and watch the service, but sometimes even if it meant that I would take away just 2 words that Pastor Art would say, it gave me hope, and it spoke to the spirit man. Although the physical man was not willing, but the spirit man heard the word. And that also helped me a lot to get up, to be able to pray, to stay in the prayer closet. And in that moment, I was declaring day after day that by Jesus' stripes I was healed. I have the mind of Christ, as the word of God says. I kept on declaring those scriptures until I believed it, and until I found that it was true. I remember when I was admitted, when I was still in the institution, I spoke to my psychiatrist and asked her, what would happen if I were to fall pregnant while I'm on this medication? And my doctor said to me that I wouldn't advise it for you to try having a baby while on this medication, and at the same time, it is highly unlikely that you would fall pregnant, considering how low your hormones are that are needed for you to even fall pregnant. And I went on about life, and I never really gave too much thought to it, because in that regard, I firmly believe that God's timing would be best. And only 2 months after I had left the medication, I found out I was pregnant. And I thank God so much that my baby was preserved, and my baby was protected from whatever harm that medication would have caused had I not listened to that nudge, had I not moved in faith and actually stopped taking that medication. God has restored my mental health completely, and I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful to be founded in a church like CRC, whereby I receive the word every Sunday, and my mind is continually being renewed. It was, I'd say it was very comforting knowing that there's a family, a small group of people who had now become family to me, that I could lean on, I could rely on. I was even able to share my struggles in HOMECELL. Being part of a HOMECELL also means that you gain people who are like-minded, people who are able to uplift you even in prayer when you're not able to pray. And I just, for me, it really felt like home, and I'm truly grateful to be able to have that support structure from the church, to have that kind of accessibility. Even though CRC might be a mega church, but they're also mega on loving on people. And I truly, truly, firmly experience that.